gonna go grab the moisture meter. When I split this apart, I'm gonna see what it's at. This is wood from the tree you saw me, the hickory, where I towed it with the Tacoma and pulled it down. It's the video where my 562 XP started acting up, actually. I just want to make sure that we do not create a barber chair by putting too much tension with the truck and with the cable or with the rope. This is an inexpensive moisture content reader. What I'm going to be looking for firewood, my understanding is under 20% is a good number. And especially because it'll continue to dry once you split it. So let's see what happens on these rounds. When I crack them apart, I'm going to check it immediately. I'm going to see where they're at. It's going to determine whether or not I'm going to potentially try to use this stuff this year or next year. Hey, thanks for joining us here at Okie Woodsman. If you are a regular, you know I don't do a lot of voiceovers. I'm trying something new. But let's go ahead and take a look as I split this hickory and it gives me some grief. I'm trying to add some variation, so hope you enjoy. Let me know. The rest of this video, we're going to be splitting some of this hickory here. I'm really curious what all your experience is with the hickory. It was far more difficult to split than I anticipated. I really did speed up through here, and I really cut out all of the fussing around that I did. I loved that the bark came off. I loved that the wood was so solid. There was really no rot or anything like that. And look at how nice and clean that is. But it was so stringy, it just kept holding on. It was totally unexpected. I even flipped this over and tried to peel it off there. Oak doesn't do that sort of thing unless it is really, really curly. But anyway, I'm just very, very thankful I had the splitter to use this time. Wow. If I remember right, this one turns into it's like a W. I mean, it was crazy. I had to like flip it over and split it from both sides just to get it to come apart. So this is pretty funny. This is where when I split the wood, it pops and it explodes some bugs onto my stomach and waist area. Look at them ants crawling around everywhere. I made a short video on this. I think that short's going to do fairly well. But look at all those bugs crawling out of that hickory. I think this is the interesting part right here. Boom! Look at all them bugs. That's awesome. I didn't even know that had happened until I started editing. So let's go ahead and talk about elm. What is your experience with elm? When I have dealt with it in the past, I had tried to split it with an axe, with a maul, with wedges. I even pre-cut it like a slit to get my wedges into it, and I just couldn't get it to bust, no matter what I did. Now this was green elm. I picked it up off the side of the road thinking that I had a wonderful score of wood. I had no clue what I was doing. When I got it home and tried to split it, I then found that I was unsplittable. I ended up cutting all that up with a chainsaw. At one point, I cut 3/4 of the way down the butt of the log, like against the grain, on the end grain. I cut all the way down, like 3/4 of the way. Jammed a wedge in there and beat on it, and the thing finally popped. To my surprise, it was like a complete, like twisted X pattern of fibers going crisscross, like perfectly laid in there, like a carbon fiber type structure. And at that point I decided that I didn't want to ever touch elm again. Now, had I put that elm on this machine, would it have done it? I feel like this hickory is stringy, but I don't feel like the structure is quite as bad as elm. But again, like I said, I don't have that much experience using a splitter or dealing with elm or hickory for that matter. This was the first time I had really done any sort of hickory, and I can see why some people are very particular in the type of wood that they want for firewood. Because this didn't split real cleanly, it's, when you grab it, it's just not going to look as nice sitting next to your stove or your fireplace or in the wood pile, because it's going to have all those hairs and all that stuff sticking off the sides. And so that's something to be aware of. Real straight grained oak or pine or fir or whatever, man, it splits off so beautifully. Look at that. Did you see that impact when that thing popped? And I just love this. Watch how long this splitter it takes. It squishes in there and then boom. And that hickory, some tough stuff. These are small rounds, everybody. These are like 10 inches maybe across, 8 inches across, maybe a foot, some of them. It's some pretty tough stuff. We're not going across knots. We're not, this is just wood. It's not particularly knotty. It's relatively straight. Look at this. That one split fairly well. But again, it hangs on, and all those peels, it peels. Now, question, if the wedge is sharper on the splitter, would it help kind of somewhat sever and tear those apart rather than just squish them down to the end? Tell me, is there a point to a sharper wedge? Because obviously this splits just fine, but would it help if the wedge had more of an edge on it? This is really the first time I've ever had any amount of time on a splitter by myself. I'd done it years ago with my father when he had, at that time, purchased a splitter. He had a bunch of wood to split up, firewood, and I had helped him. But at that point, I didn't have a fireplace. I didn't have a desire to learn about any of this stuff, so I really didn't know what I was doing. Look at that. Look how stringy. No wonder hickory makes such an incredible tool handle, because it just doesn't want to let go. It doesn't just, the fibers don't just shear off or break off. They literally peel all the way down to that last moment. This is a 27-ton machine. It's running really well at this point. That Honda engine was very, very, very easy to start and was reliable. It never gave a hiccup the entire time. I ran quite a few tanks of fuel through it as I was going. Also, that wheelbarrow in the background, that was a lifesaver, because these barks came off whole like that, and it was great not to just throw them on the ground. The bark of the hickory is literally very woody itself. So since it was peeling off, I figured I'd throw it in there, and then we went ahead and put it in our burn pile to clean it up. I think it's a little bit of a time saver. You know, some woods, you can't do that because you just end up with a pile of chips. And this is all of the split up hickory here. A little time lapse of me throwing it out of the truck. There's a little bit of oak in here I threw in there too. But man, oh man. Everybody, would you please share how many cords do you think that rack holds? It's 16 foot long, 4 foot deep, and I can stand up in there no problem at all, and I'm about 5'8".